welcome to this video. And in this video, in the background here, I've got Gaia Tika, which is a temple to the divine feminine, really, the goddess, which is of course the embodiment of nature. And that's kind of apt for today's video, because I want to talk about the horned god Pan. Pan is really a nature god, and in the same way that you often have the divine feminine, the goddess represented, you have it represented in Pan as not only the god of nature, but the wildness and the revelry and the prowess and fertility of the sexual force, which is inherent as the life force that give rise to all of nature. And so Pan is an extraordinary god, and at some point in Greek civilization was so popular that he became almost the god of everything, and that's why we have the word Pan, which really means all. And the Pantheon, which of course is famous in Rome, was representative of all the gods. Pantheon means all of the gods, and of course they've taken all those statues down now, but it has a hole in the ceiling in the same way that there is a hole in the ceiling in this roof. Let me see if I can show you. If I just pull this camera all the way back, you can see it's exactly like the Pantheon here in Gaia Tika in Costa Rica. And you also have the round door, as well as this incredible Vesica Pisces window, of course, which is very much like that union, as well as the giving birth process. So Pan is someone I want to talk about today, because there are a lot of words that are derived from Pan, such as panic. And panic, there's this other side of nature which can be very terrifying, and Pan is a little bit of a double-edged god. It can be very delightful and playful, like Dionysus, very much revelry and party and dancing and drinking, but he also can be very terrifying. And sometimes in the past, just to hear the word or see an image of Pan, people used to be very frightened. And so panic is certainly a sign of the times, because we are living in a time of a so-called pandemic. Pandemic means all people. But it's interesting, because if you take the word pandemic and take the middle dem out, just like you're taking that demi middle, that halfway point, like a demigod is like half god, half human, and essentially that is what we are. We are all demigods, half god, half human. If you take that demi bit out of the word pandemic, then you're left with the word panic. So both of these words, panic as well as pandemic, are related to the mischievous god, the great trickster of them all, Pan. And of course he's often portrayed with horns on his head, with a man's body, but then he's got goat legs and hooves. So he's basically kind of like half goat, half human. He's a faun, otherwise known as a satyr. So a satyr, of course, is also a joke, pointing to the kind of the humor and the kind of the trickster element of Pan. And another word which comes from Pan is pandemonium. So you have Pan, demon, eum. So it has the word demon in it as well, which speaks to really the sense of like when you repress the spirit of nature, when you repress the primal force of creation, when you repress that Kundalini energy, then there are going to be consequences, because you're repressing an awful lot into the unconscious realm of the shadow, And so you can't really kill a god. Like they declare, Plutarch in the 1st century declared that the great Pan is dead, but you can never kill a god, and you can only deny him or repress him, and the consequences are always that this god or this archetype, this energy, will find a way to announce itself one way or the other. So we could muse that the work of Pan is afoot right now at this time of the so-called a pandemic. I keep saying so-called because up until the turn of the millennium, and Pan always comes at great times of change, and this is a great time of change. At the turn of the millennium, the word pandemic was reclassified so that it didn't have to be as deadly. It didn't have to be deadly at all. In fact, up until the turn of the millennium, it had to be not only a global disease but a deadly disease. But right now, it just needs to be a global disease. So any seasonal flu could be a pandemic. So that's also seems like the work of like the trickster Pan himself. And so I think this is a very important time of great change, of cataclysmic upheaval, and a time of really honouring the earth. That's been the great time. Right now, a lot of people have been going outside, and people haven't been driving their cars or flying their planes as much. So I think it is the time to honour nature. But it's also been a time of great control and of great repression of movement and human spirit, being in lockdown, and certainly an unprecedented time of surveillance and mandating things and the restriction of freedom. So this almost seems to be the opposite of Pan, which is about being wild and free, but does seem to speak to the more Capricornian perhaps elements. And my moon sign is actually in Capricorn. So yeah, I think there is something about that side of Capricorn which seems to enjoy that sense of control and order. Yeah, so it's very interesting times, but all I can say is that we should honor the great god Pan, that this is a great time of change, that this is the time that we've been waiting for. And if we, rather than repress and deny the force of life, we really honor the life, we find a way to come back to nature and to trust in contact with nature and with other humans, and get away from the screen as much as possible and just immerse ourselves into the visceral contact with our bodies and with nature and with all of life. And I think that will usher in the rebirth of a new earth, which is what this temple actually represents. So thanks very much for watching this video.